Well, churches are starting to speak out against the government's proposed misinformation laws, saying they fear the laws could be used to stop them preaching Christian doctrine. An article today reported that the Australian Catholic Bishops' Conference has warned it's concerned the bill could be used to portray the church's communication of its teaching as a form of public miscommunication. This comes after warnings from the Australian Christian lobby that the proposal will cancel Christian posts online, including where churches express an alternate view to the prevailing woke culture on gender and sexuality, and for those who want to speak out against abortion. So the church have got two concerns here. One, if they preach doctrine, would that be misinformation? For instance, Caleb, if you said Jesus rose from the dead or the Virgin Mary was in fact a virgin when she gave birth to Jesus, would that be misinformation? And then there's the Christian teaching of morality about males and females and sexual ethics. And for people who say the church is just, well, they're panicking about this, it's only a year ago that the Essendon CEO lost his job for daring to attend a church that preached Christian sexual ethics. And it's only a few years ago, during the same-sex marriage debate, that the Archbishop of Hobart, Julian Porteous, was dragged off to a discrimination tribunal for daring to preach Catholic doctrine to Catholics. What's interesting about this is that just a couple of years ago, during the pandemic, governments closed church services down. So all church services had to move online. If that ever happened again and we had disinformation or misinformation laws, it's potentially possible that churches could be shut down completely, both physically and online, for daring to say things that go against the government narrative. And what's really infuriating about this is the government have gone to the trouble of carving out special exemptions for the entertainment industry, say they won't be subject to misinformation laws. The politicians themselves won't be subject to it.
Government's scot-free.
But Christian people, church leaders, people of faith, they'll be subject to it. And who would trust the government not to intervene?
But we see this throughout history. This is what every totalitarian government has always done. They become the state religion. They literally roll out their own religion. There are no other churches. There are no even different denominations of faiths, etc., and so on. There is one religion. You saw this under Mao. You saw this under Hitler. It became. It was literally. Everything was cookie cutter, whether it was the education, the state religion, etc., and so on, and there was no deviation from it. It does make you wonder, is that what we're starting to see here? Because as believers, we know there's a great many things that churches believe, and Muslims are never called out for it, although we see eye to eye on a great many, especially different issues around morality. Never called out for it. The state won't go there, but churches always, they'll go after us. That's fine. And again, we see our heads on a platter here. If this thing were to get up, and God willing it won't, it ought to be shot down or have so many amendments passed that it's absolutely unrecognisable. It was also raised, which is a pertinent point, that since the pandemic, a lot of church services are online.
Yeah.
And so they're using these means. So this whole online misinformation, disinformation, it wouldn't be a matter of, these state agents going into a church service, overhearing something and then reporting back. No, a lot of churches are using these online mechanisms in which to broadcast sermons and services and even small groups. And all of that, the bill as it stands would fall under that, every word coming out of the mouth of a preacher.
All I would say is I don't care whether you're a church, I don't care whether you're a person posting on social media from your mother's basement. I mean, this mob, Freedom for Faith group, represent the Baptists, Christian churches, Anglican, Seventh-day Adventists. They've asked for a carve-out in the legislation that would exempt churches. Well, that's weak as piss as far as I'm concerned. You should be opposing the bill, the whole as bolus. Because if you're saying, well, we deserve an exemption, why are you any more deserving of the exemption than the rest of us? Because if they can do it to the little man, they can do it to the church as well. And if they can do it to the church, they can do it to the little man.
And it's ridiculous.
If you believe in freedom of expression and you believe the church deserves freedom of expression, then we all deserve freedom of expression.
Sure,
and
but
freedom of expression is not a special exemption that you're granted by the government.
It should just be a basic right.
Yeah.
No, but obviously they're raising it in the context of we literally can't operate and do what we do as a church, as any religion. Obviously, I think you make a pertinent point, but it's disingenuous to be like, oh, you should just be opposing the bill as a whole. They're simply bringing to the government's attention we would cease to function as a church. We would literally not be able to teach our scriptures anymore.
I think we'd cease to function as a society if this thing passes myself. Personally.
Well, we already started to. That was the pandemic.